and welcome back to another wine and oh gosh, I'm so sorry. Okay, rewind. Hello and welcome back to my channel, Boozy Bookish Thoughts. I'm Justine, or Jay if you prefer, and welcome to another wine and book pairing. So, if you watched my videos last week, you will know that I wasn't feeling well, so I wasn't drinking wine. I was all up on the tea. And I was a little worried, but I knew it was probably just because of the side effects of the vaccine. But I bounced back, as you would have seen from my Tuesday video. And today we are back to doing our signature series, wine and book pairing. And today we will be featuring this San Valley Carménère. And I realized after someone posted a comment on one of my wine and book pairing videos, I should say that these are not sponsored. I am not sponsored to talk about these wines. I literally do not have enough subscribers to be sponsored. All of these wines are bought either by myself or by my very loving and patient aunt who probably doesn't even know I have a YouTube. So thank you to her for supporting my love of wine, even if she doesn't know that I'm making YouTube videos about it. So today we're going to be talking about this wine. This is honestly one of my this is honestly a very good wine, one of my favorites. And I was a little panicked for a while because they ran out in the supermarket where I buy it from, and there were like 2 bottles left, and so I grabbed both and brought them home. And this is one of those bottles, although they have restocked since, so I have another bottle. Yes, I have hoarder tendencies when it comes to wine. But so this is the bottle, and on the back it says it's from the Maule Valley in Chile. Maule Valley in Chile. And it's inky dark purple in color, almost black in the glass, warm, plummy, fruity aromas, surrounded with smoky, toasty scents of oak. Fresh black plums and blueberries rise up with swirling and carry over intact on the palate. Whatever that means. Mostly, what I look for when I try to pick wines, things like plummy fruit aromas, that's a good sign. Black plums and blueberries, also a good sign. So those are the words that jump out at me when I read these and will make me think that I likely will like this wine. It is 12.5% alcohol, and it is also a screw top bottle, so I will let you listen to the it's raining, so it's pretty cold, so I don't know if you can hear the rain, but it means I can keep the fan off. So if anyone's interested, I will let you hear the bottle opening. Here you go. Do you like that? Okay, so now it's open, and let's pour ourselves a glass. So I have drank this before. In fact, very memorably, I drank this, or I served this on Christmas Eve last 2021. So here in the Philippines, we do celebrate Christmas Day, but the more important celebration is on Christmas Eve. So we'll attend Mass at night and then go home and wait for for Christmas. And that's when we eat and open presents and things like that. So this is the wine I served at what we call Noche Buena, and my aunt really liked it, so we ended up giving her a bottle for herself for her birthday. And so if you will see, I don't know if you can see, it is in fact nearly black in the glass, but if you look at it, I don't think it's showing up on camera, but if you look at it down like this, it does come out kind of purple. And when you smell it, it smells very fruity. It smells a bit like alcoholic jam, if you can believe that. So let's go for a taste. It's a very rich, very fruity flavor. It's also pretty heavy on the tongue. This isn't something you would want to be drinking on like a hot summer day. I guess it is August, so in the temperate climates it's still summer, but it is moving into autumn, or like here, as we call it, it's going into the Burr months. So this is not inappropriate. It's really good. I really like this wine. The thing with this is it tastes a bit like fermented grape juice. Like, imagine grape juice, and just leave it alone in the cupboard for a while and until it reaches the point where it becomes wine. That's what I imagine this tastes like. This tastes to me, it's fruity, it's medium bodied. This tastes like a stereotypical red wine. Like when you say, I want to drink a red wine, this is the thought. This is what I imagine when I say that. Which is not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing at all. In fact, it's quite good. But there's a certain sense of comfort to it. It's very comforting. And it tastes like, it tastes kind of familiar, kind of cozy, kind of, it's like something you want to come home to after a long day. Like if the previous wines we talked about were all kind of going out wines, this is like coming home wine. You know, this is a wine you want to have stocked at home so that when you have a long day, you can pop it open, pour yourself a glass, and just feel kind of cozy. And it makes you feel really warm because it's 12.5% alcohol. So it makes you feel warm, it makes you feel cozy, and it'll make you feel relaxed. It's not that exciting, I will tell you that. It's not that exciting. But it's still good. You enjoy it. Like I said, this is one of my favorite wines. It's very approachable, very not intimidating. I mean, it's just good all around comfort wine, if you can believe that. And that's the vibe we're gonna go for. Like, not so complicated, not too intimidating, but still very fun and interesting and enjoyable. Okay? Sorry about that. I had to adjust my camera. Okay, so we'll go into the books now. So going into the books, what books do you think would go with this that are kind of, by the way, I drink this at room temp, which right now is a little below 30 degrees, probably close to 23, 24 degrees, but I've drunk it on warmer days as well. I do not store my wine correctly, so don't quote me on this. But yeah, so what books give us that feeling, that kind of nice, cozy, coming home feeling, not too intimidating, still enjoyable, but kind of just something you want to escape into, you know? I have 3 books. For 2 of them, I'm honestly a little reluctant to pair it with this wine because I like the wine more than I like those books. But they did give me this vibe. And they were by no means bad books. I mean, again, like I said, I can't say I didn't enjoy these books. They just weren't my favorite. One of them I liked a lot more. And this is also a first, I think, for my wine and book pairing series, in that I've read all 3 books that I'm going to be recommending. So the very first is The Dragons of Autumn Twilight by Margaret Weiss and Tracy Hickman. This is the first in the Dragonlance Chronicles series, or like the core series of Dragonlance Chronicles. And it is just good, clean, fantasy, sword and sorcery fantasy fun. It is there is world building, but it's not that complicated world building. The characters are very stock characters. You know, they are the leader half elf and the grumpy dwarf and the straight shooting paladin. He's not called a paladin, he's a knight. But this borders on boring if you're not going to read it just for fun. It's not that complicated. Some of the scenarios are pretty laughable, and if you even have heard of D&D, you're going to be like, oh my god, this is just a D&D knockoff. This is just like a D&D novelization. But I do play D&D, or I have played D&D. I don't play it anymore regularly, but I found it really fun. I found the characters to be engaging and funny, and I found the storyline to be, well, not exactly compelling, to be intriguing, you know? The basic premise is that these are friends who are who come together, or who return from their various travels and meet up together, and then they become involved in the fight against the so-called dragon high lords, who have brought evil dragons back to their realm, to their land, and they are trying to protect this one. She's a cleric, she's a healer. I mean, she's a barbarian woman. I mean, they call them barbarian women or plains woman, and she she's been given gifts by the old gods, and they need to protect her, and they need to protect the gifts of the old gods so that they can drive the dragons away from their land. So it's very standard sword and sorcery stuff. It's just good fun. It matches this wine. I really wish I were drinking this wine when I read it. It's just good, cozy fun. I breezed through the book. It was yeah, I had fun reading it, and I think you would too. To be fair, the next book, the sequel, Dragons of Winter Night, does not fall into the same category as this. Just to be clear, that's a lot more engaging. It asks a lot of deeper questions. The characters develop beyond their stock characteristics, and it's a nice way to deepen the story for those who want to go further. But the first book, it's bordering on cliche. I'm sorry, but it's just good, clean sword and sorcery fun. So Dragons of Autumn Twilight, Margaret Weiss and Tracy Hickman. The next book, honestly, I diss it a little bit, but honestly, this book was one of the first books I read when I was getting back or falling back in love with reading. Because I went through a lot in my early to mid 20s, and my love affair with reading kind of got cut off a little bit, but I've been falling back in love, and one of the books that I read that helped me get back into it, honestly, was this book, and that is The House by the Cerulean Sea by T.J. Klune. So it is also a fantasy, and it's about a caseworker. It's about a caseworker who gets assigned from from the government agency that's assigned to oversee like magical or paranormal beings or creatures, and he's a caseworker who is assigned to investigate a certain household where several creatures are they're human beings, they're children, but the government views them as creatures because they are magical. So where several magical children are living and being cared for by a caretaker, and the big twist, or one of the big catches, is that one of those one of those magical children is in fact the Antichrist. So they call him Lucy, and he's a very sweet 5-year-old boy, around 5-year-old boy. It's the thing with this book is that it was just painfully predictable. It was very painfully, like a third of the way in, and I knew how it was gonna end. There were no surprises for me in this book. Which, you know, if you're in the right mood for it, is not a bad thing. You don't always want to be surprised. Not everything has to have a plot twist that's earth-shattering. It was fun, and like I said, it may not have surprised me, but it was still a very enjoyable read. I enjoyed the characters. I forget the name of the main character, but he was a sympathetic character, and the main caretaker of the children was also a very intriguing character who was well built. There is a romance, but I do feel the romance was a little rushed. I don't think it was that well developed, but it wasn't by any means bad. It was still quite cozy. The children were adorable. Lucy is quite the character, and it's very I talked about Good Omens a little bit a while ago, and so that also features the Antichrist, and I would love to read a fan fiction about these two Antichrists interacting, like or like a crossover between these two Antichrists. So yeah, and the visuals are wonderful. They're different. The way that the characters grow together and develop as like a found family is while predictable, is still very wonderful to read. It's very cozy, it's very lovable. Yeah, overall, it wasn't the most earth-shattering read, but it was very enjoyable. And like this, I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with not being earth-shattering, you know. You can be comforting and familiar and predictable and still be good. So, there. I know I said I don't need the fan this time because it's raining, but drinking this wine is making me sweat. I don't know if you can see it on camera. Also, my tripod is still not cooperating. Also, I don't know if you noticed, in the last couple of videos, I have been trying to make more eye contact with the camera, which is really painful for me as ADHD, but I am trying. I am trying for you. And I don't know if I went the wrong way and overcompensated by like staring at you. Leave a comment to tell me if I'm wigging you out as much as I'm wigging myself out while editing. So the last book, I have talked about this already before previously on the channel, and that's because it was one of the books I read recently in June, and that is Daughter of the Moon Goddess by Su Lin Tan. Now, this is the one that I felt most reluctant to pair with this wine because honestly, this book was not the most enjoyable for me. I don't even plan to finish the duology. Unlike, say, the Dragonlance Chronicles, which I am continuing, or like how The House by the Cerulean Sea, which is a standalone. This one I'm not even continuing the duology. But the thing is, it hits all the highlights. It hits the required vibe, which is that it's familiar almost to the point of predictability. Oh dear. Did you hear that? There was like a crash while I was pouring the wine. Anyway. That it's familiar almost to the point of predictability, and that it is comforting to read. That it's still enjoyable, which it really is. You will hear a lot more of my gripes if you watch my June wrap-up video. You'll hear me excuse me. You'll hear me say some of my like nitpicky arguments about why I didn't enjoy this there. But I do have to say, I gave it like a 3 stars, or maybe even a 3.5. It's not a bad book at all. It's intriguing. The description is very lush, very vivid imagery. The characters are kind of Mary Sue, kind of perfect. But there's nothing necessarily wrong with that. There's nothing necessarily wrong with playing with stereotypes and I mean, I talked about Mary Sue characters in my cozy mysteries as well. So overall, I mean, it's an enjoyable read. It's comforting, it's cozy, it's a good fantasy book. I mean, it's not the most complex by any means, but it's a fun read. And I think for people who don't enjoy fantasy, this is one of those fantasy books they could enjoy, because it's not that intimidating. The magic system is barely explored, and it really focuses more on relationships rather than world building. So yeah, I think it still fits the vibe of not intimidating, cozy, but still enjoyable. So, oh my gosh, does anyone have advice for tripods? Anyway, so those are the 3 books that I am, oh, it's still doing it. It's doing it right now. I'm going to hold it in place. So those are the 3 books that I recommend for the San Valley Carménère. That is Dragons of Autumn Twilight by Margaret Weiss and Tracy Hickman, and The House by the Cerulean Sea by T.J. Klune, and Daughter of the Moon Goddess by Su Lin Tan. So those are books that you may want to check out if you want a non-intimidating, cozy, fun read that's not that complicated, but still definitely enjoyable. I hope you check these out. Let me know your thoughts about these books down below. Have you tried this wine? Do you have any thoughts on what wines you want me to try next? That's it. So please leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe, all that fun stuff. And yeah, I hope to see you again in my next video. Cheers!